Good afternoon, everyone. It is Brenda Meller, and you're here for another edition of Social Media P.I.E, where I invite inspiring people, that's the P, from my network to inform, that's the I, and educate, that's the E-U. Very, very excited today because we have a special guest with me, Renee Hribar. And Renee and I actually finally met in person a little bit earlier this year when the world was normal. And here we are today, and I'm actually going to pull Renee up here on screen. Here we go. Hey, Renee, how are you doing today?
Great. Nice to see you.
It is nice to see you. So we've been connected online for a while, and I think it was Tammy Pereira who introduced us, right?
Yep.
And I remember the first time I heard about you, I think Tammy and I met first, and then she kept throwing me resources different ways and books and stuff, and I was just getting my business started. And she's always very enthusiastic. She's like, oh, you got to connect with Renee. She's awesome. You'll love her. And of course I did. And I do love you. And, you know,
I feel the same.
And we've been kind of fangirls of each other, I think, for a while. We've been like, we follow each other. We post and we comment on all the social networks.
Totally.
And I think it was in January, you reached out to me and you said, hey, I'm going to be at the NAWBO Greater Detroit lunch in February. Are you going to be there? And I was like, oh, if Renee's going, I got to go. This is definitely going to be a cool thing to check out.
In person.
Yeah. So we like got the quick selfie picture, and then we were chatting afterwards, and it was like, hey, let's do a live session together. Totally. And that was when the world was normal, if we can imagine such a thing, right? It's like, it feels like it was 5 years ago when we had that conversation, right?
Totally. At least.
Yeah.
What year is it?
Yeah, I don't know. They say it's 2020. I think we're 2022. I don't know. But before we get started with the conversation, I'm going to do two things. One is I forgot to close my office door. So when I'm on camera, I do rogue things like this. I go off camera. So hold on a second.
I already told my family, we have 2 little dachshunds. I was like, if they start barking, mitigate.
I forgot to, I went upstairs.
Vocabulary word of the day.
I already did I warned the kids. I'm like, listen, I'm going on a webinar. I already did that. And my daughter's like, I'm not going to come in there. 5 minutes from now, I swear my printer will start going. Somebody will knock and say, when's dinner? I've already, told them. But so that's the first thing. And the second thing is we've got an audience with us here today, Renee. And I just want to take a moment and say hi to you guys. So if you're watching us live on Facebook, if you're watching us live on LinkedIn, hey, drop us a comment here below and just say hi. Let us know how your day's going so far. Are we good? Are we a thumbs up day? Are we kind of in the middle? Are we feeling a little bit low? Wherever you're at mood-wise, say hi from. Tell us what city you're joining us from. If you're watching us live, let me know that. If you're watching in playback, if you're watching it later on today on what is today? Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday. For those of you who need to know.
No, I'm like in a loss. I don't even know. Is it? The other day I'm like, it's Tuesday or something.
I know, it's quarantine day. It's all just quarantine day. It's one
quarantine day. There's not a word for the day that we're in today, but we are here because we're going to be talking to Renee. But I'm going to take just a second to see who's online with us right now. So I'm going on LinkedIn just to see the comments that are coming in, and it looks like we've got about 20 viewers right now. I'm going to wait for the comments to come up here. And it's kind of buggy on LinkedIn for the comments through StreamYard. Sometimes they don't come up right away. They take a little while, but they're not. I see 8 comments, but I can't see them yet. So we're going to keep going. But I will remind you guys, if you're watching this on facebook.com/Meller Marketing, if you leave a comment there, I can actually pull your comment up on screen. So a little bit of a marketing opportunity for anybody who wants to get a little bit of promotion for themselves or their business. You can leave me a comment on Facebook. So Renee, so let's talk. We're here today to talk about your favorite F word. I reached out, you guys. I reached out to Renee earlier today.
I was just gonna tell them if you didn't. I was like, this is
oh
too
my
good.
God. I was laying in bed last night, and I try not to watch too much on the news, and I stopped looking at the news and looking at Twitter before I go to bed because it's just too much anxiety. But instead, last night I was going through my day and going through what I'm doing, and I'm like, what does Renee even talk? I know it's an F word, and I know it's going to be like appropriate for business, but I have no idea what it is. So earlier today, I think I messaged you on Facebook, and I'm like, Renee, what is the F word, by the way? And I want to make sure. I'm sure you're not going to go rogue on me, otherwise I'll bleep you out and remove you from camera. But I'm like, I don't even know what the word is. So
it's funny. I was in another meeting and I busted out laughing when I saw it, and they're like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, and they laughed because like you would say that, but yeah, I mean it's not anything nefarious.
Inappropriate or anything, but
although it could be, knowing me.
Yeah, but you kind of, I love, you've got this great energy about you, and you've got a little bit of a shock value too. You're into your approach, and you it's just a high level of energy that you have. And I'm like, she would never do anything, bro. But I'm like, I had no idea. And as an interviewer, I'm like, I should probably know that coming in, like what she's going to talk about. But
this is rated E for everyone,
right? Yes, rated E, general audiences here. So Renee, why don't we start with, why don't you take a minute, tell people a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll jump into our topic here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is so fun. I've loved watching your show. I've loved meeting you in person. And of course, all the things that you do with LinkedIn is phenomenal. Cool. So Sharon says, I was on LinkedIn, but I moved over here to Facebook. I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, now we can see. Yeah, it's like
now you can see I got a mirror in the background. If I go far enough, you'll see like me waving at myself. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? This is like, I don't ever make mistakes, guys, too. I have learning experiences. So
that's right.
2 of them so far here today.
We've had some learning experiences. Yeah, exactly. So for me, I've been in the sales world. I've had my own independent sales organization from 1996 all the way to 2007, right in Southfield, Michigan. So I know that Brenda knows where that is because we don't live too far from each other.
Yeah.
And we rolled in here when AT&T was taking over SBC and all the deregulation was happening. And so we went B2B all around Oakland, Wayne, Macomb, and out into the state. And it was amazing. It was super fun. We rolled out the AT&T campaign, and then we started working with credit card processors, Intuit. So if you've heard of, Intuit, it's QuickBooks. We're helping all the same businesses that we just helped with their telephone deregulation. We helped them with their credit card processing. This is before you could walk into a Speedway and you could just come in with your Visa and like buy a water, Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of fun. That's what I did for years. I sold that company and then sat for a year on a yoga studio floor and needed to mellow out. Well, right about then the recession happened. Mm-hmm. And I can speak in specifics with you, Brenda, because although I'm from New York originally, I've lived here in Metro Detroit for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
And then I had a cherry juice company. I started a cherry juice company with 2 doctors from Henry Ford Hospital. And we were at Eastern Market every weekend. Wow. And we grew it from Eastern Market into 180 grocery stores locally, like Holiday Market and
I didn't even know that.
Westbourne. Yeah, it was super fun. And then we went to a big food show in New York and had a bunch of purchase orders and then sold everything. So it was like perfect timing. And right about then, that's when my husband and I, after having 12 years of challenges, we finally found out we were pregnant with our now 9-year-old.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun. And then I worked at the Detroit Waldorf School as the director of development.
Okay.
And then I bought a book on Amazon, and on the back had a little website, and it said something about creating courses and selling them online. And this was 3 years ago.
Really? That's it?
Yeah.
I feel like you've been doing this for like ever, like, because you're so good at what you do.
Well, thank you, but I've been teaching sales forever. So every single day since 1994, I've been selling for other companies and now teaching people how to sell for themselves. So specifically who I work with is ideally women business owners. A lot of times they're former corporate or they're current corporate. They're hanging up their own shingle to consult on the side. Maybe they're on a board. Maybe they've written a book. And they're looking to put themselves out there in a bigger way, but to sell for themselves, they've never been responsible for that part of the house, right? So now moving to the front end of the house, selling for yourself, a lot different than even selling for someone else. Wow. So I teach those really fine sales skills to women who, what they find when they work with me is that they had them all along. Yeah. And I just give them the structure and the system to put it into place consistently so they get that security.
Yeah. You're like the fairy godmother you're like Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz.
Good.
You had it with you all along. Everything you knew, you just needed to click your heels 3 times, right? Can I call you Glinda? Can I do that?
I would love that. That'd be beautiful. I love Glenda the Good Witch. Yes, and I do aspire to be Glenda the Good Witch. And I was working with someone for the last 2 weeks. She is a day trader. She has a course in day trading, and we know the market has been tanking. And with the last 2 weeks of us working together, she was able to make 24 sales for her course, which ended up in
this market. That's amazing.
Even in this market, a little over $10,000. So that's the kind of work that I do. To give some specific examples, I teach people how to sell for themselves. It's hard to get out in front of people. She had run a couple webinars to sell the courses, ran a couple email sequences. So helping her with those finer minutiae, because what do we say? How do we talk about ourselves without being braggadocious?
Yeah.
How do we talk about the problem and the solution that we present? Sharon says, "How lucky did I get with you, ladies?"
Yes. How lucky are we, Sharon, that you joined us? And I didn't, but she says she hears your New York accent.
Yes. So I grew up in New York between Orange and Westchester County.
Yeah.
And so I definitely grew up there. I went to college in SUNY, State University of New York at Plattsburgh.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then I moved out here as a part of a business trip and expansion of the AT&T market through the company that I was working for. Initially, though, when I first came to Detroit, I was working for SkyTel SkyPagers, which at the time is considered a telecom company.
Wow.
And that is how I got connected to AT&T. So it was really like this soft overlap. And I went to Old Shillelagh on, gosh, what was it? What year was it? It was 1996. And so St. Patrick's Day, I think, was on a Sunday that year. I went to Old Shillelagh because I was in town. I'm like, what do I do? I mean, I'm in town. I'm visiting. If I was in New York, I know what I'd be doing, but I'm here in Detroit. What do you guys do?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you got to go to Old Shillelagh, Old Shillelagh. I went there, and I ended up meeting my lucky leprechaun, my 6-foot-tall redhead Wayne County Sheriff husband.
Oh, that's such a sweet story. And Old Shillelagh of all places too.
Of all places.
And St. Patrick's Day, you said too.
Yep. So that's like a big day for us.
Yeah.
We even have a little etching in our house, a painted picture of Old Shillelagh. And when I met him, I was 23. I was a player. I was like, making big money in sales. So I remember he asked me for my number. I took $1 out of my wallet and tore it in half. Wrote my number on one side and his on the other. So we have that $1 today in that frame.
That's so sweet. That's really nice. I love that. That's a nice story. And I love, I think that's probably a part of your history. Do you guys go back there still now too to Old Shillelagh visit?
Not really.
No, because it's the when you're young. I mean, I remember going with my friends, and we would go in St. Patrick's Day, but we go on other days too because it's just a fun bar to meet up at. And when you're young, it's the place to go. But then you get older, and you get old and boring, right, Renee? If we're calling it like it is.
Well, after this, I might go. Who knows? I'm going to go everywhere.
I know. Well, right now we're so bottled up, but we are. I mean, there's two ways to look at things. There's the glass is half empty and all the things we're missing out on, but we are safe inside, and that's the important thing. I felt so much better when they closed the schools down so that I could keep my kids away. And I just feel much better having all of the chickens in the house here, so to speak, and not having to worry. So before we jump in, I did figure out how to get my comments finally to come up on LinkedIn. This is like a little bit of a StreamYard hiccup that sometimes will happen, but I just want to give some shout outs to some folks who are joining us. So we have Claudette from Rochester Hills, Michigan. Hi, Claudette. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I lived in Rochester Hills when I first moved here. I loved it there.
Yeah. Mark from SD. So is that South Dakota? I think that's South Dakota, right? It's like I'm learning relearning my state abbreviation.
Geography. SD. Yeah, South Dakota.
SD, South Dakota, right? Okay.
Or San Diego. I don't know.
Could be. I don't know, Mark. What is SD? You said SD Live. I don't know if that's San Diego or South Dakota. Stephen is from Mobile, Alabama. We have Denisha joining us from North Oakland County, Michigan. Denisha was on a webinar I did earlier today, so nice to see you again, Denisha. Awesome. We have, can you believe this, Stephen Quinn joining us from Ireland here today. We are international right now. Yeah. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us. We have Tammy joining us from San Antonio. Hey, Tammy, how are you doing? We have Keith from Daytona Beach, Florida, selling masks and gloves on Facebook to bring in food and cash flow. So awesome. There you go, Keith. We're pivoting. We have Fatou joining us from Paris. Hello, Fatou. Keith is a loan officer. We have Shelly saying she's from Portage, Michigan. Hi, Shelly. Thank you for joining. And then we have Megan, who is from Northeast Ohio. So we'll give some periodic shout outs. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for leaving comments in there. If you're just now joining us and you haven't left a comment, go ahead and say hi and let us know where you're joining us from. And we're actually going to get into the fun part of this discussion now, right, Renee?
Yeah.
So I feel like we need a drum roll. Like, what is this? Right? I need like the Jimmy Kimmel, how they have like the sound bites and stuff. I need like those, like where I can play them. I don't have it yet. I'm not that big yet, you guys. I'm kind of little. So, all right, Renee. So let's talk. And I love the provocativeness of the topic too. So let's talk about this. What is your favorite S word?
My favorite F word is follow-up, because I love, in sales, you have to have follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up, but it's all about finesse, not force. So it's not like, hey, just following up. hey, just following up. Hey, just following up. You're like,
yeah. Yes, because that becomes like nagging and irritating and aggressive and rude, I guess, in some things, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. What was that, like 1980 something video where it's like Max Headroom? He was like, like,
yes.
Don't do that.
Like, don't be too annoying with that. So this is like an important part. And what I love when you talk to us about your background, I mean, you had a really varied background, a lot of different industries that you're involved in. And were all of your roles in sales, or were they sometimes in supporting roles? I mean, you're kind of a sales expert then. You're coming into this with a knowledge base. Right.
So I ran, I mean, I was the owner of all, I've owned my own company since 1996. So as the owner, the buck stopped with moi.
Right.
So I had to, so I definitely had to make sure all the other roles were supported, but I also needed to stay out in the front, which is where the money was coming in. So hiring, training, managing sales teams, that's what I did for my own independent sales organization, ISO. And then eventually for the beverage company, that's what they brought me in initially, was for us, to consult. And then they realized, I realized there was an opportunity there. So I came in as a partner. Yeah. So follow-up is all about getting creative. When I was in the field, we were going business to business. This is before social media, before you could find out someone's social footprint, before you could look them up on LinkedIn.
Right.
We had to buy data like that. I mean, we were going down on Brad Street just to try to find their email.
Do you use those sites still, Dun and Bradstreet, or do you use any of those sources anymore? I remember Hoover's database, but that was like the big thing. Like, it would scour the internet and find executive emails and data.
Yeah, exactly. You really had Macomb, Michigan, awesome. You really had to work your network. And so today, I think it's so easy. This is my perspective. It's so easy to connect with someone on 8 different channels. IG stories, LinkedIn, what their dog is, oh, you have a doxy, their favorite food is whatever, kale chips. I mean, you can find out a lot about somebody pretty quickly. And so a lot of people, A, rely on that, or B, don't rely on that. And customers are just covered. They're just covered in potential clients, but they don't even know. They're like, I can't find anybody. I'm like, well, there's like one stuck to your face. There's one over on your shoulder. So how do you continue the conversation? Follow up. So when we have all these social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, goodness gracious, even search engines like Pinterest and YouTube, where there's engagement, there's opportunity. And the way the opportunity is explored is through follow-up, continuing the conversation, connecting over multiple different topics around and having multiple different conversations. That's the beautiful thing that leveraging social media gives us, right? We don't just have to say, so would you like help with your sales? We can talk about the weather and the dogs and the quarantine and a multitude of other topics. We can, in fact, what's even fantastic about social media is we can join the conversation where they're at. And that's why I love Twitter, right? It's one of the places you can actually join the conversation whenever they're having, and kind of just like if you were at a live networking event, kind of slide in and say, oh, I have an interesting comment around that.
Right. You kind of jump in, but you wouldn't come in and say, hey, Renee, I think you need a LinkedIn strategist. I've looked at your profile and it's awesome. Here's my business card and here's my, I mean, and I appreciate when you kind of said the follow-up. I mean, there's an etiquette and there's nuances to it too.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
That I think that's the key. It's the action for one, but then it's like the type of action and the appropriate level. So not force. About, what you see as some either common mistakes, or do you want to take us down the path of what's the right way to do it?
Yeah. So I see a lot of mistakes where people, A, they just don't do it and they wonder where clients are. B, then the other mistake they make is they don't use any of their creativity. They are just like, just following up or nice to see you. And then they don't ask a question. So that's the 2 mistakes I see. The best way to do it is to ask a question. Well, when I ask someone a question, wouldn't it be nice to ask them a question that they would like to answer?
Right. Not like I sometimes get I get so irritated with people on LinkedIn when they do this. Brenda, what keeps you up in bed at night? And I'm like, well, my pillow when it's behind me watching TV, or sometimes my child, because the pitter patter, what they don't tell you is the pitter patter of them coming in the room going, I can't sleep, but you're not going to help me with that. So why don't we just cut to the chase and or they say, what's the biggest problem that's facing financial success in your business? And I'm like, would you like my social security number, my bank account while you're at it? I mean, seriously?
Right. So here's why I love working with women business owners. And nothing, it's not against men. I have a son, I have 3 brothers, I have a lovely husband, I have a great dad who is also great in sales, by the way. But with the answer, the question is ask an emotionally intelligent question. That's the real definition, if I'm going to give you one today. Okay. So what does that look like specifically? And that goes back to what I just said. Look them up for 5 seconds, please. Like, it's right there. Just look at, like, check them out. Like, read their profile at the very least, like, see what the last thing they published was. Yeah. Especially if you're selling business to business, the other business is publishing. Yeah. If you're selling business to consumer, chances are the consumer also has a social footprint. Yeah. So do 5 minutes of footwork, please. Right. And, set a timer if you must. If you find yourself going down a rabbit hole, which I have to do. You don't need FBI level investigation here.
They're not going through their trash or anything.
Right. They're not dating your daughter. You just need to know a little bit about them so that you can ask an emotionally intelligent question. In other words, if you do take the 5 minutes and you realize that somebody got sick or someone's not well, let's go. It's okay to still reach out, but you would say, I'm reaching out because I saw this and I wanted to personally send you my, whatever, my condolences or my best feelings or my prayers or something to that effect. Right. Yeah. And I don't have to ask a question at that point. It's simply showing up with value and care.
You're showing that you're a human being and then you're relating to them as another human being. So we're in a very emotionally charged place, and you and I, we're kind of having fun. We're joking a little bit, but I mean, I've had my heavy moments during this whole thing, and I know you probably have too. And the longer it goes on here in Michigan, I don't know anybody personally in my personal kind of network, family and friends who've been impacted, but I have clients whose family members have been sick, and I know people now that I've heard of who've passed away from it or a hospital. And it's a very heavy time. Yeah. And what's your advice to people in terms of follow up, and especially if you're trying to sell to people in today's climate? I mean, gosh, what a trick. I feel like it's a minefield right now. Like, how do you approach it and still, use an emotionally intelligent question, but also one that will help to guide the conversation where you want it to go. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's probably end of the day, it's to get the sale or at least to get a lead generated. Right.
Right. So it's always about continuing the conversation. Like, this is what if that's the drum that I beat, it's always about continuing the conversation. How can I continue the conversation to make it interesting to them, valuable to them, but yet still moving them toward, like you said, moving the relationship forward. So, I'm sure we've seen these programs where maybe like you want an elephant to go from the pasture into the yard or something. I don't know. So you would put like little peanuts down, right? Right. Mm-hmm. So the elephant can ignore you or can pick them up tentatively, but pick them up regardless. And then you earn their trust every time you put a peanut down and you don't attack them. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's sort of like that with a sale. Like, that's what I'm imagining as I'm following up with people, is I'm just putting another peanut down. Mm-hmm. And when I put it down, and they pick it up, I'm not like, ha ha.
Right. Gotcha. Throw the peanut, pull them in, Yeah.
Right. Ha ha. No, there's no like, it's literally building trust over time. Yeah. Now, the beautiful thing is it doesn't have to be years, although sometimes it is. I have a lot of clients that are clients of mine today that I met years ago. But I continue to reach out. So follow-up isn't just when you need something, right? I also say, don't be my Uncle Timmy. Uncle Timmy only calls when he needs something. Whenever the phone rings and it's my Uncle Timmy, my husband, he's not online, so I can talk about him. And I would say it to his face. Yeah. And my husband's like, what does he want? Because he never calls for happy birthday, never calls like, oh, Merry Christmas, never calls for Mother's Day, only calls when he wants to like borrow the truck. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. and I've been hearing people right now too, the advice is, hey, reach out to everyone, like everyone, I'm using this loosely, reach out to everyone in your network and check in and see how they're doing. And then, then follow up with a sales pitch immediately after. And I'm like, literally, I mean, there's people I haven't heard from LinkedIn since I connected 5, 7, 10 years ago, and they're reaching out now. And hey, and you can tell it, and I can tell it's not a genuine message to me. It's like hey, hope you're doing well in these trying times and that you and your family are staying safe and healthy and blah-de-blah. And there's nothing about me. It's all a very templated, antiseptic looking, trying to look like a good feeling message. But then at the end, there's something in there. if we can discuss how we can help you and your company with your printing needs during these trying times.
Too fast, too soon. Too fast, too soon. This is not Tinder.
No.
Okay. I have a great talk I did about don't turn LinkedIn into Tinder. So like because what the reality is, as you said, it's very antiseptic, very templated. So the templates are a good place to start. It's like training wheels. Okay, honey, we got you. You're safe, secure. Here's a template. But what I teach people is you don't do 100 of those a week. You don't have to, because the people that we're working with in our businesses as well, we don't sell $5 widgets. We don't need 1,000 customers this week to stay in business.
Right.
If we take on 3-4 clients in the month, that's pretty good. Like,
right.
That's full.
And I respect the fact that they're doing outreach, but I think, if you're using the templated, like it felt weird to get these from some people I haven't heard of in 5 to, like the people I would expect to hear from are the people I am doing business with, or I am seeing, people like you, I see you at networking events. And if you were to send me that templated message, I would still be like, oh, well, that makes sense. Cause I see Renee, I talked to Renee. Renee is reaching out on Instagram and liking and commenting on things. And I like feel like sometimes I'm like, where did she message me? I got to reply back. Where was that at? Was it Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn? Was it email? Was it a carrier pigeon? Where was it in the world? And I'll just like shoot out a bunch of them. Then I'm like, I things first,
We're connected in all the places, which is
are in all the places. Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. But, I'm going to put this up on here, this don't marry on the first date. I love that analogy because it's like, when I talk about LinkedIn, I talk about when you're connecting with someone, the goal of the invitation is not to sell, it's to get them to accept the invitation.
Yes.
You don't follow up after the appetizer with, here is a ring, would you like to marry me? You wait until you meet the family and you spend a holiday with them and you get to know them and you figure out if you like the same things. And then 12 months on the line, you propose marriage. But I love that, Sharon. Don't marry on the first date.
Well, really. I have 3 brothers, and 2 of them are married twice. God love them. And so,
second time's a charm for some people, right?
It was for them. Yeah. So at this, I know they were 99.9% sure that their current wives were going to say yes before they offered anything, a ring, proposal of marriage. But that's how selling is too. That's how businesses run. Like, don't just, you're going to do your due diligence. You're going to put in the work. You're going to date. You're going to spend some time. Again, it doesn't have to be over years, although it's meant to continue on even after you work together.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to, and I'm gonna ask you. This is a me asking you kind of a question too. So this is like I'm an independent consultant. I'm sure there's a lot of people on here too. And guys, take a minute to comment below. Are you working for yourself right now? Are you thinking about launching your own business, or do you work for an employer? I'm just kind of curious what you guys are doing. But if you're like me and you're running your own business, and I'm right now, I'm fearless, you guys. I'm not worried about the situation. My business has taken a little bit of a dip, but I'm kind of shifting now to doing more helping job seekers and helping others. And I know things will come back. I'm okay. Yeah. And I don't have that in the back of my mind. Oh, is my job going to be cut? I don't have that. And that really feels good. I gotta say right now, I'm never going to fire myself, Renee. I'm awesome. I'm an awesome employee, right?
That's right.
But to that end, we need, we Meller Marketing, we need income to support our business in the long term, because at some point my kids will come in and say, what's for dinner? And I need to have food on the table to feed them. But having said that, I've got a couple of proposals that are out there, and mine are usually they either quote close quickly, or they might take 3 to 6 months and they close. But I have a good sense of the ones I think are going to close. And I'm a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. I always tell people, my clients, that I'm like, I'm terrible. I don't want to say terrible. I'm like, I'll follow up once in a month or 2 if I don't hear from you. But now I've said this to clients for the past 3 to 4 months. And any proposal I've sent prior to, let's just say middle of February, now I'm like, how do I follow up? Do I follow up? Do I wait to follow up? What do I do, Renee? Help me out here.
Okay.
It's awkward.
Great question. So when I teach, proposals, which I do a lot, RFPs, we all got them. Mm-hmm. I teach them in this way. I say 2 things have to happen. We want to automate the follow-up. That's the first thing. So when I make the appointment for that initial call, before I even make a proposal, so let's rewind the tape, I get their email, right? Which is pretty common. Hey, I'm going to send you a Google Calendar invite. And just so you know, I am going to send you some of the best things that I curate and that I share with just this list of special people. So check your inbox because you'll regularly see me in there. And it's very often something of value that you're going to want to know about. And they're like, oh, okay.
So this is like when you send them a proposal, you also add them to your email list, or no?
Way before I even send them a proposal.
Okay.
So this is when I first meet them, when I've had that first call, that first meeting, and I get their email for Google Calendar. So what am I doing right away? I'm stacking my own deck. I'm preparing for the inevitable goal of follow-up.
So are you asking them? I mean, are you getting permission to do that? Do you need?
And they're saying, great.
Are you waiting for them to say, okay, yeah, go ahead and add me in before you add them in, or do you just add them?
Well, no, I just said it. I'm saying I'm going to add you in to this special list that I share valuable content with, or that I wouldn't even use the word content. I would use the words that they use, that I share value with about this and about that and about this, which are things that I share in my weekly email.
Okay. And so you're kind of telling them you're adding them to the list, and you might get people replying back or not, but you're adding them in. And this is even before you're getting to a proposal phase.
This is me on the first meeting.
Okay.
There has to be a first meeting at some point, right? When I'm going to book them in to my calendar and we're going to have a conversation, I start my follow-up there. I plant the seed, deep roots, right? Okay.
Gotcha.
So they're, by the time we are at the proposal phase, they have been indoctrinated to the Renee world, right?
They have had Renee messages thrown at them. And I don't want to say thrown because that sounds negative. I love to get your email. And I have to admit, I've jumped on your Facebook Lives. I've jumped on, sometimes it's like the webinar on demand thing. It's like I missed it live and I watched the playback, and I just like love the energy. I picked up tips from you. It's like, it's been really helpful, and I see what you have to offer. And I feel like you're one of those people too. You're a very giving person, Renee. You're never putting up the wall in front of you going, nope, you got to pay for that. I mean, obviously you're running a business and you're being very clear with, here's how to take the next step to work with me individually. The math things, you only can get so much out of them. It's when you work one-to-one with person, I think you can kind of level it up.
Totally.
But you've always been very giving. Like, here's some resources, here's this, there's that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got all these things in a basket. Where do I put them? There's so much.
Thank you. Yeah. I do my weekly show every week. I've been doing it for 3 years now. It's a lot. So I've had people reach out to me being like, I've been listening to your podcast and your show and for years, and I'm just so thankful. And so all those neat things. Oh, Sharon, we'll drop the link for you.
Right. So I mean,
but let's get to your question.
Renee, if people do want to get into your list, I mean, could we send them to your website?
Yeah,
I mean,
my website is where you want to go. That website does one thing, and that invites you to my list.
Yeah, there you go. So it's up on.
We're not fooling around. This one thing. It's good. So that all being said, but to answer your question is, what do I do for those proposals that I sent out mid-Feb, and it's now mid-April, it's almost April mid, and so what do I do, right? So I just wanted to say that I plant my seeds early, I get deep roots so that my follow-up isn't freaky, right? So like, I don't want freaky follow-up. I want that finesse, right? So, because it's harder to raise the dead than to have a baby.
Yeah.
So it does take time to have a baby. Almost never raise the dead. Have we seen Pet Sematary? So what I'm getting at is I want to lay the groundwork early, knowing that I don't want to ever lose touch with this person. If I took the time to go to an in-person networking event, or to post a piece of valuable content, to write it and to share it on social media, and someone connects with that, I don't ever want to lose touch with them. But I want to automate the follow-up, because I also know that I'm a human, and I don't want to, even though I love selling, because I love people, I know that it's not going to be 90% of my work. I can only really dedicate like 10% to my active sales activities, which include meetings, follow-up, and proposals, right?
Right.
So all that to say, what do I do? So there's one more thing that I do before I send out that proposal, is I put it in draft mode with a deadline. Okay. So I say, here is what I'm sending you. This is in draft mode because we still should really talk about it. This is just based on what you told me, what I believe is your next best step. Again, I'm taking on the role. Oh, thank you.
I love that paused expression too. Or you look like you're like deep into like an opera or something right there. It's beautiful.
The person, I kept it raw and real, because that's what I hope to encourage in others, is you don't need to put on you don't need to be fancy pants to have people really enjoy you. So there's a big orange button below that'll give you 0 to sales in 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
And
I'm navigating throughout your website right now. I'm like,
well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So I'm just throwing this in the background here as a little bit of like, flavoring for the session here for today, and give you some visual variety as we're going throughout the session here. So
I love it. So those proposals that are out there. So if I haven't done that, if I haven't had that deadline, if I didn't already put it on there, having the deadline makes it super easy to follow up, because the deadline is my reason to follow up. Like, hey, I would hate for you to lose out on that offer. We had a really great conversation. The proposal is right now about to expire. So I don't let it go for more than a week. So proposals like lettuce cannot sit in the fridge for more than a week.
So it's out there and they've got a week to act on it, and then is the pricing no longer valid, or what? What
I want is another meeting, right? Like I always want to. I want to build in my follow up. I don't want to make follow up weird. So they know in advance. Now I've sent it out. They've been getting my emails since we started meeting each other. So like they're feeling me. Like they know that I'm not just a service provider. Whatever I have proposed to deliver, I do it in a different way. And they've gotten the chance to know that based on being on my email list, me sending emails consistently to people on my list of value, and potentially me also connecting with them on social media, different LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. Me joining their list, responding to their list. So again,
you do that to me. I was like, I think you join mine. I'm like, every now and again, I'm like, oh, Renee read me. I'm feeling
right.
Special.
Because as the creator, you're like, no, you never think anybody's going to read it. You're like, nobody gives a crap about what I do.
And I love it when I do send out emails, and I'm not like I probably could put a lot more structure in place with what I'm doing, but I have some automated flows that are set up. And then I have now I send out once a month, or maybe I'm doing a little bit more frequent because I'm doing some webinars right now, but I'm not super structured. But when I do get a response back, I'm always like, oh, Scott read my email. Oh, Renee read my email. I'm just feeling loved, and it just makes you feel really special.
It does. And if, I don't know who you use as your email service provider. Do you use ConvertKit or ActiveCampaign or?
I use Constant Contact, but I'm also using a tool called 17 Hats.
Project management tool. Yep.
I feel like you probably told Tammy about it, or Tammy told you, because that was like one of the tools when I first met with Tammy. She was like telling me, you got to read, Mike Michalowicz's Profit First book. And she was, telling me about it. And I'm like, I'm a marketer. I'm not in accounting. I don't know how to manage my money. And she's like, you got to read this book. And then we were talking, and I remember when I met with her, it was in January. And this was like just a few months after I really decided to get my business going. And I'm like, she was like giving me the boot camp. She's like, where are you at right now? I'm like, well, I've got like 3 or 4 proposals out, and I feel bad following up with. She's like, that's your money. You need to go chase after it. And I did it, and I was very politically appropriate about how.
Oh, of course, finesse, not force.
Finesse, thank you. So I'm like, hey, checking in on the proposal. Want to see if you have any questions. Schedule a follow-up call, or if you're ready to proceed. And one of them closed right away, and 2 more I got meetings from. And I emailed, her at Tammy afterwards, and I was like, wow, you're right. It is my money. I do got to go after this.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's definitely important to think about that finesse element, and especially where we're at today. So I love what you're speaking about. If you're talking to them all along, it's not going to feel weird coming out of the blue. Right?
Exactly. So if you are at that point where maybe you sent it out, there wasn't a deadline, maybe you just, you're wondering, how do I pick up the conversation again?
Yes.
Start from the beginning, right? Okay. So when I do reach out to them, just like when I initially reached out to them, I don't want it to be like, hey, so, right? What about that thing we were talking about?
What brings you here tonight?
What about that money that I'm going after? You have to ask it about, because the only goal of reaching out is to get them to respond. Once they're responding, then we have a dialogue. Yeah. Then we're having a real human conversation, and then it's a lot easier. It's that initial like, do I talk to them? What do I say? I don't want them, especially with women business owners. We don't want to come off pushy because we've been pushed.
Yes.
Right. And it's very important to us to be liked oftentimes, right? We don't want to come off, because there's a word that is used commonly about a strong, confident woman. And it's usually not strong and confident.
Yes. It's not an F word, it's a B word.
Right. And we don't want to be that because we're not that. We're just, there's that fine line of how do we assert ourselves with confidence in a business way without crossing the line. And this, we can do this. And we've known this many times in our professional career, that we can do and say the exact same thing as our male counterparts, and it can be taken totally differently.
Right. Judged differently. Sheryl Sandberg, right? What's the book she read or wrote? She probably read a couple books too, but I can't remember the name of the book.
She probably read a couple books.
Lean In. You guys read that book, Lean In, where she talks about, not doing things because of how you think you're going to be judged or future circumstances, but also scenarios. And there's a story in the book where she talks about, and they take out the person's name and they present the scenario and they say, this is a man, and how do people react to his personality? And then they present the same exact scenario and they say, this is a woman, and what's your reaction to her? And she's kind of pummeled, and the man is like heralded for, he's aggressive, he's a great salesperson. So, it's a different kind of scenario. So Renee, I want to take a moment to pause. It looks like there's been a couple more comments coming in, and I did ask a question earlier about, are you working for yourself or working for a company? We got about 115 people watching us right now.
Yay!
Fatu working for a company and for myself on the side. Megan's working for a company trying to restructure the sales message of the CEO and the client service team. Sue says the right clients are all you need. Be selective. More is not always better. And you probably, do you select clients out, Renee, that aren't a good fit for you?
Yes.
Sometimes, because that's really hard when you're working for yourself. I'm like, oh, it's hard to say no to that money, but I know this is going to cause me more pain, and I don't enjoy the work. And even though and I feel like the day that we're in right now, I've lost so many accounts where things are pulling back. I just have to take anything. What's your advice to people? I mean, do we have to take anything? Do we have to make concessions right now?
Well, I mean, there's always, that's a great question. So, I mean, it will depend on how hungry you are, obviously. Yeah. If the mortgage is at stake, then you might have to eat more crow than normal.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, you can adjust how you do that work. It doesn't have to be all done for you. I work with a lot of people that are implementers, right? Like, they might build a funnel, they might do an ad campaign, they might create a website, and a bad client is costly, right? Costly emotionally and physically, and it's so draining. And it could actually be financially, right? Because those wrong clients that I say have not been indoctrinated into your world, they might not see the value in your offer or the value in the work that you already have put in, and then ask for things like refunds or some sort of variation therein. So what I will say to that question is, do I take just anybody? And what if it's bad times? Is I might offer somebody who I'm like, I might offer them something very small and short term,
right,
as an initial way to let them pay me and let them prove to me, although I wouldn't say this obviously, but this is what I might be feeling. Let them prove to me that they're not that bad clients. Because what happens also is we do sometimes wrongfully imagine how someone might be as a client. But they just, and this is to the seller, don't make their decisions for them. You don't know how you don't know how they're going to be. Because there's also people that you thought were going to be super awesome, and they were nightmares.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you don't know, because, I mean, if you're working, especially if you have retainer clients that are going month to month to month, it's not just the dollar value of that month. It's like the dollar value that has been generated in that relationship to date. And that can be really challenging. But, it can definitely be a drain away. And I wonder too, I want to get your opinion on one other thing here too, Renee. So we're in a time right now where I feel like budgets are being cut, and I'm getting, I get approached now and then for speaking engagements where it's my networking group. Can you come out and speak to us? And normally it's like, I'm at the point now where I say no, unless I have an affiliation to the group, unless I'm being paid for it.
Right.
But I'm also like, well, gosh, I'm here at home. My income has been cut. I'm trying to build up some online offerings and different things. So maybe I should just do it. But then I'm like, well, maybe I should negotiate something. So I had one woman who recently reached out to me. I believe actually she's affiliated with NABO, and she has a different networking group outside of NABO. Mm-hmm. And she said, can you come in and teach us some LinkedIn tips? And I started with, thank you for offering. I'm flattered. Do you have a speaker budget? And then I waited. And I felt a little, I feel a little awkward because I know the answer is probably no, but I still waited. And then she came back and said, unfortunately, no, we don't. And I said, well, keep me in mind in the future, and, good luck. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should. So I ended up reaching back out, and I said, I've given it a little bit more thought, and happy to do this, but here's what I'd like in exchange. I want to show everybody how to post on LinkedIn, and I want everybody in the group to post on LinkedIn either during or right after the session and tag me and talk about something they learned. If my presentation was helpful. I also love it if you can give me a LinkedIn recommendation and talk about how you booked me as a speaker. And we don't need to say it was non-paid, but like that you booked me as a speaker. And she's like, fine. So what do you think about that, Renee? I mean, did I do the right thing, or?
Absolutely.
You know, what would you do? I mean, have you had those situations come up where people are saying, we want you, but we just can't afford your services right now, but what can you do for us for free?
Totally. I've had those situations, but also whether it's that particular specific situation or other scenarios where what I call it log rolling, right? Where I've done lots of proposals for small and large amounts, you know, millions of dollars, where we might log roll in. Like there was this one company, for example, I can't say their name, but they own a publication that if they wrote an article about us and our firm, it would have meant more clients.
Sure.
So it was really in the same realm of, hey, I want people to tag me on LinkedIn, like you were saying, and give me a recommendation. So we knew that there was a value, a dollar amount that would be associated with an article from them. So we were able to take money off of the bottom line, and in exchange for that, you know, X amount of articles and X amount of publications. And the next time we renewed, they weren't in the position to write those articles. And so the price was then added back in of what we took out last time. So the price is the price, but I'm willing to zero it out if there's equitable exchange.
Okay. That's fair. And that makes sense. That makes me feel good about what I did there too. Yeah. and I feel like sometimes we as women, we don't want to diminish our value. And especially if you are self-employed, it's really, I think it's a hard process sometimes. What do you put on the value of the services that you charge? Right. And I remember back in the day thinking, I can't charge people this amount and I don't feel like I'm worth it. And now it's like I've doubled and tripled what I charged in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And, but I still have, sometimes I hear those little voices in my head. The one guy who says, we're not going to pay you that much. That's more than we would pay our lawyer per hour. And I'm like, but I'm training 30 people. You got advice from one lawyer for your company. I mean, it's different. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but we still have those. I mean, do you have those struggles too with your own value, or are you feeling pretty good?
No, absolutely. I think over time I've learned, but at the end of the day, I also don't have packages, right? So it's not one price, one size fits all. So I do have courses, and that's a different story. But if someone's getting on the phone with me or having a meeting and they end up hiring me either for strategy session or for one-on-one consulting over time, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I will determine what that might look like based on what they tell me, because not everybody needs the same thing. Yeah. Some people need me all the time. Some people need me for a little bit. A great example, I worked with recently a SaaS company, and they have a great product. The average sale is $15,000. Wow. And they wanted me to train 6 salespeople over the course of 6 months. So that was a $60,000 program. And they were happy to pay it because all their people made money. They made money. Everybody was happy.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of the value of the investment too. If they get a sale from what you've taught them, and if it increases it by tenfold, the investment pays for itself. Right. Right.
They paid that money back in a month. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it was so equitable. They felt great about it because of what they were doing. Same scenario, different business, different price point. We might come to a different opportunity, right? A different proposal.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Well, guys, we're getting close to the end of the hour here. I just want to say, if you have any additional questions for Renee, drop them on LinkedIn right now or drop them on Facebook. I'm going to take a quick poke to see if there's been any additional comments that have come in since the last time I did the little shout out. And even if you're watching this in playback, guys, you could still leave a comment in comments on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm going to send Renee the links later on so she can watch for your comments, and I'm sure she'll follow up with you there. And let's see what's coming in. Chat says valuable information shared by both of you. Thanks for this live and the insight you guys shared. So thank you, Renee, for that.
Thank you.
And Eric agrees. It's definitely all about the follow-up. So we remembered the F word there. I'll put it up on screen. So when we started, it was like, you guys remember, I was like, uh-oh, what is she going to say? What's the F word? What is her favorite F word? And in these day and age that we're in right now, I'm like, I can imagine what that F word might be. But no, it was not that word. Don't think like that. Think positive. It was actually a positive word. It's follow-up. That is her F word. F for follow-up. So I'll wait to see if any final comments are coming in here. I'm not seeing them yet, but there's usually about a 30-second delay from using StreamYard. And what I'm doing, guys, when I'm looking, I'm actually looking at my phone. I'm not ignoring. I'm not doing my work down here, but StreamYard has a little bit of a pause between the comments that you leave on LinkedIn and when we can actually see them. So I'm vamping right now. Can you see how I'm doing that? I'm kind of like buying myself some time, waiting for your comments, you know, that kind of stuff. But so Renee, any final thoughts for the group here for today?
Don't be afraid to do the follow-up. Use your creativity. Use the leverage and power of social media. Look them up a little bit. Don't be afraid to be creative. And more importantly, when you do that follow-up, because you're not afraid, just know that you can always ask them a simple, easy question, even if it isn't, so do you have any questions about the proposal that I sent you? It could be something else. As long as you get them talking back to you, they know what you want. You know, they know who you are. They know what has transpired. It's not a mystery. You know, it's not like you're asking, you know, your husband why he put his socks on the floor again when it's right next to the hamper.
Does that happen, Renee? I don't know if that's something. That sounds like it's a real thing happening there. All right. So Renee, to wrap us up here, I'm going to remind people, go to reneehribar.com. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Right, Renee? I don't know. I think I heard you say it once and I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm just going to keep going with it. And then are you open to connecting with people or just
absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you guys go to, I think I shared it on screen a little while ago, but Renee's got a really fun, I want to share her screen again here. So Renee's got a really fun LinkedIn, and I have to ask, what's happening in the background there?
Yeah, so I host a mastermind. I have a beautiful group of women that I get the chance to work with globally. And this is at the pool house of the house that I rented in Miami last year for our in-person event. So there's a dozen of us that were able to fly in from all around the world, as far as Europe and the West Coast to Miami, Florida. And we spent 3 days masterminding. Some of the most amazing group programs were created. Ideas. You see Tammy Pereira's in that photo.
Is that Tammy in the black dress?
Yep. That's Tammy right there. Yeah.
I never knew that. Now I'm going to shout her out and I'll be like, hey, I saw you today. Tammy was on the webinar multiple times here today because we kept giving her shout outs as we went throughout. But
awesome.
Cool. Awesome. So connect with Renee on LinkedIn. Definitely send her an invite to connect. And then I'll just remind you guys too, and I'll give the floor to Renee just in a second here. But just to remind you guys, if you're interested in learning more about my upcoming live interviews, make sure you subscribe on my website. And I'm always kind of pushing out LinkedIn strategy tips. Somebody did ask in comments, hey, how do I hear more about your stuff, Brenda? Well, there it is. Go to mellermarketing.com/subscribe. And then I'll leave Renee's LinkedIn URL up here on the screen. And just, you know, if you guys have any final questions, comments, I'm going to pop into LinkedIn one last time just to see if anything could come in. Because we got delay. I was like, I feel bad because sometimes we end these sessions and then there's like 5 more questions that came in.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, it's like, oh, I'm sorry. So, you know, Sharon said best day ever. So thanks for joining us, Sharon. Beautiful day in San Antonio. Good to see. So I think that's it, Renee. So thank you so much. This was fun. I'm really glad that it worked out. You know, when we scheduled this, life was normal. And then life became not normal. But I think we're in a new normal right now, aren't we? For at least for temporarily, it feels like.
I don't know. It doesn't feel normal. But yeah. It is life regardless. And you know what? We're safe. We've got food in the fridge. We've got a happy, healthy home. And that's what I try to stay grateful for.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Renee. Been a pleasure speaking with you today, and stay safe and healthy. And hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person here again very soon.
Oh my goodness. When this is lifted, I'm going to be running. I'll be coming here.
We'll meet at, where was it? Shillelagh. We'll go out for Shillelagh. And
perfect. We'll go. That'll be worth a live stream.
That would be LinkedIn Live from the old Shillelagh. Can you imagine? They'd probably shut me down off of LinkedIn or something. I don't know. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Renee. When are you going live again? Did you say you go live every week or every day?
Yeah, every week, every Wednesday, I run my show called the S Word Live, which is all about sales, but nobody likes to talk about it.
How do we hear about that? Do we go on your website or where do we go?
You can go to my website. It absolutely is there. The replays are there. The podcast is there. But I go live based on my Facebook business page, 12:30 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. Okay.
So what's the name of your Facebook business page?
It's just my name.
Is it? Is it just facebook.com/Renee Hribar?
Mm-hmm. And my business one is Renee.Hribar. But
okay. So is it
not hidden?
Is it on the business page or your personal page that you go
business
live?
Business page. Yeah.
That's the one with the dot.
Yeah.
Right?
Renee.Hribar.
So let me see if I pull, is this the right one? If I pull this add to stream, did I do that right? Is this it?
Yes.
All right, guys, we'll go check
Word live. I'm a cartoon character.
I'm going to throw this in on one of the banners here just so you guys can see it. So there I go. Here we go.
Awesome.
So
thank you.
.com/Renee Hribar. And you said tomorrow, what time tomorrow?
Every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern.
12:30. And I'm asking these questions because I have mom brain, Renee. Like, I know you just told me literally 10 seconds ago. And I'm like, was it Thursday? No, you're like Wednesday. What time
No,
Wednesday?
I'm super. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. Yes, every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, no, well, you know, that's how all of us are. We think this is a great marketing thing. I'm sure you say this all the time. We think we're shouting it from the rooftops, but in reality, all of us need to hear things more than once.
Yeah.
We could be interested. We could think it's important, but we could still forget. So that's why follow-up is so vital.
Yes. Yes.
You're not bothering anyone.
We need to do one closing shot, and this will be what's the still images for us on YouTube.
Okay.
So some people I've done like the fist pump or the clinking glasses and stuff like that.
Okay.
I feel like you and I, we just need to do a crazy expression on stream.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
You ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, that'll be the show when you guys watch the playback and you'll be like, wow, I saw them doing that live. No, it's just fun. I mean, you gotta have fun.
You gotta have fun.
But you gotta have fun along the same way.
Gotta have fun.
All right.
I love it.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. And thanks for watching. We're gonna end the live broadcast now. Looking forward to connecting with you all online. Stay safe and be healthy, everybody. Take care.